Hi, everyone, and thank you to everyone who's viewing this session. It will be recorded and uploaded in the replay area afterwards, which can be found in the Hub menu on the left-hand side. Throughout the session, you can ask questions, and we will address them in the end in the Q&A. I'm very excited to kick off this case study on the Designer Challenge with Miguel. My name is Oliver, and I'm the Innovation Forum Coordinator at Global Fashion Agenda. And just before this session, we broadcasted the CFS Plus Designer Challenge with Miguel, whose challenge was to produce a pair of responsible sunglasses. With me today, I have Miguel and two awesome women. So first and foremost, Miguel, a musician and creative director of his own brand S1C, and the one who said yes to identify a challenge together with us at GFA to create a product within the context of designing sustainably. And then we have Sunshine Bertrand, creative director and founder of her namesake design studio, Sunshine Bertrand, and also the solution provider in this designer challenge. And last but not least, we have Tayla Harding, who is the sustainability and studio manager at Sunshine Bertrand, and is working together with Sunshine and the sustainability expert within the company. So welcome to you guys. It's a pleasure having you here today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So just diving into the conversation, together with us at GFA, Sunshine, and the retailer LNCC, the project aim was for Miguel to develop and create a pair of sunglasses that should be available for purchase. We have just watched the Designer Challenge video highlighting the difficulties in finding responsible solutions for lenses and frames and how to make the sunglasses as sustainable as possible. Unfortunately, it was almost impossible to produce the sunglasses in the most responsible way due to an incredibly high cost of certification that is needed to use the most responsible material. The result of the Designer Challenge was therefore a call to action and not sunglasses that are available to purchase. So let me start out with you, Miguel. Why did you say yes to this challenge, taking a leap from being a musician to creating S1C as well?
Man, it was such a pleasure to first and foremost discover that there was an entire organization built around sustainability and finding, again, all of the missing links to get us to the next level or get this industry to the next level. As my interest in fashion has always been a part of my creative process, and being in a place now where I've really decided to jump in and sort of find new ways to maybe meet a new consumer demand, and more importantly, hopefully help people who care about the things that they put their energy and their well-earned money, where they put that towards, people who care about, how those things are produced. I just felt like there's a lot of space for new voices. And so just as a creative individual, it just felt like an automatic yes, to jump in and as an opportunity to learn and work with incredibly talented and knowledgeable people. So the choice to do sunglasses was all about just loving sunglasses and always loving sunglasses and going, well, where are the sustainable sunglasses? Because we're hearing so much about sustainable clothing now. I was curious as to how that affected the accessories. So yeah, here we are.
Amazing. And you diving into this new designer role, what do you so far have, what have you learned from entering this new designer field, and why do you particularly find sustainability interesting and valuable?
Ooh, lots. There's a lot. I think there's a tremendous amount. I believe, as in any craft-based service or product, I think it's always the sum is greater than its parts or less than. Yeah. So this industry I'm learning is so nuanced because it is such a relationship-based and a relationship-based industry. And so sort of getting to those people to the most knowledgeable people, the most knowledgeable craftsmen is probably the larger part. And then that's also sort of where I found the process becomes there's a large amount of opportunity to evolve, because that's sort of also where crafting and, you know, the sort of time-proven, time-tested processes that need to sort of outgrow the it's maybe sometimes wasteful and non-conscious or non-ethical ways of producing. There's a lot of opportunity there to sort of evolve that. And that's been the biggest learning experience, is like, okay, well, these are where the holes are, and this is where we can hopefully help push the boundaries, sort of push the industry forward. And that's why it's been a pleasure to work with Sunshine and Tayla, because I think we share that same desire to look for, you know, to take what we know and to go, okay, well, these are the issues. And I learned so much from them. So it's been a real awesome learning experience.
Yeah, and it for sure is such an incredible developing area, the sustainability within fashion. But at the same time, we still have a lot of issues and a lot of things that still need to be developed and pushed for. So that's what's great about doing these collabs together. But Miguel, how do you find when you're designing for your brand S1C that aesthetic and sustainability goes hand in hand? And do you believe that they can do so?
I do. I think now we're in a place where we understand the purpose of sustainability, but what will get everything, or get, I believe, the movement, make it more relevant and make it more versatile, is exploring all these new technologies, new processes to achieve aesthetics that not only communicate sustainability, but sometimes maybe don't communicate sustainability. I think that's sort of the issue in at least for me, when I see and hear sustainable, there's a aesthetic quality that I sort of place on that. And there's just so many more lifestyles, so many more perspectives that you know, would find value and would absolutely spend their money if there were offerings that I think spoke to their lifestyle. And so I think that that's sort of the fun place that we are right now, is like new brands, new voices that aren't necessarily using sustainability as the selling point. They're using it as sort of the platform. And it should be, and that it's baked in automatically. And that's what S1C, that was like the very sort of impetus of starting S1C. It was, I want to create a brand that doesn't use sustainability as the selling point, but just has it as a part of its DNA. And I think that's what we're going to find more and more as we push forward and new designers and voices emerge.
Yeah, natural integration of sustainability in the DNA.
Yes.
Do you feel that in the process of designing sustainably that you have sometimes had to compromise the aesthetic to please the environment, so to say?
Well, I think this is a fun challenge that Sunshine, Tayla, and I had, which I think is a part of the economics of design, because, you know, each element that goes into any specific offering has to be considered, and that translates into, you know, your bottom line, and that's what all of this, you know, really becomes. This is where the science of business, fashion, you know what I mean, the market system, and all these things really start to sort of converge. And that was sort of the fun challenge that we had, is how can we create something that spoke to the brand, the energy, without losing that sort of DNA, and conveying the right message. And I do think that what we've landed on, even though we're still sort of tweaking, and what we're landing on, we're still tweaking. I have no, there's nothing I feel that is impossible. It's more about, you know, the process, resource, and hopefully the development of the technologies, which this challenge is probably going to help, I hope, you know, at least create conversation that pushes it forward. And that was the whole purpose of it anyway. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the main learning from this designer challenge has been how much innovation and investment is still needed in the eyewear industry. And there is so much more focus on the apparel industry, which leaves out the eyewear and accessory aspect, which are being mass produced as well on a global scale and is a huge part of the fashion industry. The fashion industry seems to forget that sunglasses frames and lenses are mostly made of virgin plastic, and plastic is created using fossil fuels, and there are currently very few technologies at only small scale availability to recycle sunglasses. So let's jump to our experts in this field, starting with Sunshine. You've told us that your ask for transparency in the eyewear industry has hurt your business, and that you said yes to participate in this challenge because of the problems in the eyewear industry. So could you define your main challenges or problems that you experience?
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I mean, it's been really great to be part of this because for a long time we've been working in this industry, and with not a super strong voice. We're designers, we're just a small cog within the bigger machine. So to work with you guys and work with CFS and the Global Fashion Agenda to highlight and to start the dialogue is really, I feel like, is like the start of it all for us. So yeah, like certainly it's about a lack of dialogue that's going on, a lack of transparency within our industry. It's pretty closed, and a lack of urgency. So look, I think that the eyewear industry is dominated by very large organizations, and they're not so quick to take up these events and to work, with Miguel and CFS, etc. We are all smaller, more agile organizations who have a sense of urgency. So yeah, I'm really passionate that the industry awakens to what we're going through, to the situation that we're in, and we really take it seriously together as an industry. Yeah, and that we can affect meaningful change. It's like we've really got to pull together, and I know we're going to talk about that a little bit later, but
sure.
Yeah.
I'm especially also very interested in the aspect of the small businesses having to produce in smaller quantities, but we'll dive into that later. First, I also want to hear a bit from Tayla. What do you see as the biggest challenge sustainability-wise in terms of environmental impact when producing sunglasses?
Sorry. I think you touched on it a bit earlier when you mentioned about the virgin materials. Most eyewear is made from virgin materials, whether that be metal or plastic. There has been some more developments in like biodegradable materials and bio-based materials, but we haven't really seen any development around that facilitates those materials being disposed of correctly. So our worry there is, where is that going? What's happening to that? Even though it is a better material, it still could be ending up in landfills, which is not our goal. We really think there should be more of a focus on developing recycled materials, both metal and plastic, to keep things out of the waste, reusing what we already have, and avoiding making more. So keeping everything in the loop.
Yeah, that's a great way of seeing it, and especially something that, as we see it happening in the apparel industry, there should be the technology of developing these sort of facilities.
Yeah.
So Miguel, when you entered this designer challenge, did you expect to be experiencing this number of complications? And are there any surprises that you've learned from the eyewear industry and working closely with Sunshine and Tayla?
I mean, stepping into this, I was absolutely unaware of any of the challenges or where anything lied. I assumed that there would be like a plethora of challenges, not as many as we sort of hit once we had locked in a design and like really, really honed in on what the offering would be. It's been a trip to just kind of piece together how many small elements, and we're talking about for sunglasses, first and foremost, learning just the basic elements that we would need to hone in on, in terms of decisions, going with one process versus the next, what that means in terms of production and how that translates into cost. Are we going to go with, injected molds, or are we going to do it, different, all these different things, and the challenges and hurdles that we'd have to sort of overcome. It seemed so simple in the very beginning. And as we went further and further along the road, you start to understand all the nuanced, sort of elements that, really make this a challenge to navigate in terms of pushing the industry forward, pushing manufacturing forward in a way that is respectful, of ecosystems and earth, and not at the detriment of, human beings and animals and plants. So, I'd like to say that I thought it was going to be easy. I didn't think it was going to be hard, but it was much more challenging. And at the same time, so much more rewarding, just in terms of what I've learned. And hopefully, again, what's come out of it is a dialogue about how do we, again, not only for accessories, but especially for accessories, how do we get manufacturers, get developers to really listen and to play with smaller brands, to work with smaller brands. And I think it's the solutions. It's first identifying the issue before you can find a solution. So that's the best part.
I think that's a great question also to ask, like, out in the open, that maybe Tayla and Sunshine can shoot some ideas on as well, because they've been in the field for so long. Mm-hmm. So how do we push this agenda forward? How do we push the manufacturers, and how do we support the smaller brands that wish to enter the market as being one of the sustainable key players? Because as we've also spoken before, I know that you're also working with both large and small clients. And there's different, problems or difficulties with that. So do you have any sort of thing that you wish that we could push into the industry right now in the manufacturing section?
I've got a couple of ideas. Like, I think I would love to, in terms of talking about independent brands, smaller brands, which, who are the change makers? The bigger brands always follow what's going to go on with the change makers, innovators of the smaller creative independent brands. And I feel like if there was some collaboration between some of the materials suppliers, because there's great developments going on in the material with the material suppliers, but often it's prohibitive in terms of cost and very complex systems, manufacturing systems, to use these materials. Like, we're just not there yet that they're like mass and they're mainstream accessible to everyone. Mm-hmm. So if like some of these material suppliers could see a way to collaborate and would see that, these change making, more independent brands could really showcase what they're doing, lower their MOQs somehow, I don't know, help them with their certification costs and processes, then perhaps it's a way that we can sort of open it up. And, it's all about critical mass. Once the bigger brands get on board, then it will be more, the costs will come down and it will be more accessible to everyone. But it's tough at the moment, because we're at that stage where the materials are coming, but it's like, to get them over the line that we can actually use them, we're kind of stuck. It will happen. I really believe it will happen. It's just like, we need the urgency for it to happen now. Also, there's another idea that I've had for a long time, and I'd love to like reach out to anyone in the manufacturing, like eyewear manufacturing sector, is like manufacturing hubs or manufacturing, like individual manufacturers who become like a bit of a one-stop shop for making sustainable eyewear. Because there's a lot of brands out there who really want to do it, but it's like, again, it's they're one small brand in a big chain, that they'll get lost, or the materials or the processes aren't sort of tried and tested yet. So I think there's a really great business opportunity there in manufacturing.
For sure, I especially like this collaboration point of view as well, because that currently we see that it's the big players that have to ask the demand in order for the manufacturers to actually apply these certain demands. And by turning it around and making it a collaborative effort from smaller brands, they might become a big power. Taylor, do you have anything that you wish to add to Sunshine's point of view as well?
I think a big factor is also awareness. There's not a lot of awareness of what effect the eyewear industry has on the environment, nowhere near the same level that the textiles industry does. So I think if there was a bit more awareness, there'd be a bit more drive from people demanding change and demanding newer products, newer materials, and newer processes to make eyewear. Because at the moment, it's sort of a forgotten part of the fashion industry, and there's not much demand. There's people asking for it, but the solutions we get on a mass level are not that great, and we want more. We want to be 100% happy with what we're putting out there, and at the moment, without the awareness, there's just not the development that we're looking for.
Yeah. So Miguel, turning to you as being one of the smaller brands, if there was this sort of collaborative community, and you already being a respected public figure and coming with your own brand, would this be something that you would be interested in participating in as well in order to push this action?
I think that's sort of that's always been just in terms of understanding how change comes in a market system. It's just always about demand. And unfortunately, in this is no exception. So when the larger population of consumers demand a certain standard, then the industry changes. And in the same way, larger corporations are paying attention to smaller, forward-thinking companies in whatever sector, not just tech, fashion, and so on and so forth. Across the board, it's larger companies that are paying attention to smaller movements, smaller products, smaller demand, and trying to forecast in a way that benefits them at the right time. So it's really again, it is about educating, and it is about numbers and how many. So to answer your question, I say all that to say I'm so down to combine to create coalition, to create community that sort of pushes that demand, and also allows us to meet the requirements of larger manufacturers in order for them to work with smaller brands and smaller companies. I think that's just how it works. So I'm absolutely down for that. I think that's what the industry needs in general. And the sooner we can do that, the faster we get to next levels and better practices.
Yeah. So Sunshine, when you are taking in or being approached by designers, what is like the most common questions that you're getting asked, and what kind of mindset do you believe that a designer should have to start producing sustainably?
I mean, definitely it's what materials what's available right now to use, and then it will quickly come with how fast can we have it. So I would say, like, we need patience, from the brand partners, the designers, because there are some great things happening, but it's because it's a first time often, or we're working with manufacturers and it's new, it takes longer. I would definitely say patience and pricing structure, looking at margins. I hate talking about that type of thing being a designer, but it's such a reality of like the business that we're in. And, these materials that are new are are still more expensive. So it's like, who takes that hit? Yeah, I would say those two things. And also just being open, as Miguel touched on like earlier, to different ways of looking at design. You know, like I really love, for me as a designer, I'm super happy with a tight brief. I love it. I love it when there's even like, you can't use this because of this, you know, price, or you can't use this because the material's not weighty enough, for example. So that's our challenge as designers. So I think if we're designing together the product, it's really being open to collaborating in an open flowing kind of way, not just this is the normal way we've done things, this is the way that sunglasses look, this is the way they feel. You know, how do we create desirability together a little bit out of the box?
For sure. So I can see that we're actually reaching the point where this is ending our talk wise, but I think this is such an interesting dialogue that I wish could keep going and people to chime into. But let me just ask a few questions around before we end. Miguel, I was wondering, what can we expect now from the upcoming S1C collection in terms of the sustainability angle?
Well, this has been sort of the question that I've been digesting in my mind is, okay, launching, even if it's a soft launch, you know, what is the story you want to tell? And for me, it was always that we wanted to create all the systems ahead of time, laying the proper foundation to grow into. So, you know, a fully, like a closed loop system of offerings was something that was important to me. And the beginnings of that are finally starting to develop. So on the side, I started working on developing blanks and a closed loop system to sort of provide blanks for smaller businesses like mine that were fully sustainably produced and had a closed loop system in terms of, you know, being recycled and reused, so that whatever we put out there, because we can't control consumer demand, that's a part of human psychology. How do we start to make sustainability accessible for more small businesses? And that's been sort of one of the, I think of it in terms of like, you know, Elon Musk and Tesla's, you know, he wanted to create a accessible, you know, consumer car that was fully electric. And though it took a little bit more time, I do believe that more companies are thinking in terms of these larger, you know, ways to help, you know, the everyday consumer. We're going to need more of those. So that's one of the more exciting things that we're developing now that's coming to fruition.
Amazing. Well, I unfortunately we're gonna wrap this slowly up. But to summarize this whole conversation, I think that this is definitely a huge call to action in terms of the sunglasses industry, and how we can make the quantity orders smaller or use collaboration in order to meet these demands and price points that you're facing in the eyewear industry. And I love having people on board like you and you, Sunshine, and Tayla, who are pushing this industry and being the front runners. And it's also great to see people like you, Miguel, who wish to take up these challenges and push together with a brand like Sunshine. So thank you all so much for this talk. I'm excited to see where this project goes and follow up in the future, hopefully. So thank you so much for taking your time and being here today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
It was a
Thanks.
pleasure.